The tale of Kratos, the ghost of Sparta, the God Slayer, is not one for the faint of heart. Born in the Greek city-state of Sparta, Kratos, like all Spartan youth, was monitored and trained for combat by the Spartan authorities. Those who were deemed fit were allowed to grow and be trained as future Spartan warriors. Kratos and his younger brother Deimos dreamed of joining the great Spartan army when they grew up. However, a prophecy foretelling the demise of the Olympian gods at the hands of a mortal, a marked warrior, became known to the gods. Zeus, the king of Olympus, sent the gods Ares and Athena to hunt down this threat. Noting Deimos' strange birthmark, the gods invaded Sparta and abducted Deimos. Kratos tried to save his brother, and as Ares prepared to kill the young Spartan for it, he was stopped by Athena. This loss left an indelible mark within Kratos, as he vowed to never falter again. Kratos had himself tattooed with the exact image of Deimos' birthmark. As Kratos came of age, he became a respected member of the Spartan army, eventually marrying Lysandra and siring a daughter, Calliope. Shortly after her birth, Calliope contracted a plague, leading the Spartan authorities to deem her weak and sentencing her to death. Determined to save his daughter, Kratos set out on a journey for the fabled ambrosia of Asclepius. Unbeknownst to Kratos, Ares, the god of war who had stolen his brother, had chosen him to be his mortal champion in a godly wager, cursing Calliope to ensure Kratos' participation. The contest was a race to capture the ambrosia. As he found the healing talisman, Kratos encountered Prince Ulrich and his barbarian army, who battled the Spartans for this prize. Kratos successfully acquired the ambrosia, saving Calliope and dooming Ulrich's ill father to death. Becoming a Spartan general, Kratos led Sparta to glory with his brutal and effective tactics. His pride and hunger for power grew greater with every victory. Despite his family's pleas, Kratos continued his bloody campaign. Kratos and his army finally met their match when they encountered the merciless barbarian tribes from the east, led by the now king, Ulrich. The Spartans found themselves facing a humiliating loss, with Kratos at Ulrich's mercy. In desperation to save his own life and refusing to admit his defeat, Kratos called out to Ares.
Ares, destroy my enemies, and my life is yours!
Pledging his allegiance to the god of war in exchange for victory. Ares readily accepted, wiping out the barbarians and giving Kratos the Blades of Chaos as a symbol of his servitude. Kratos uses these blades to kill Ulrich, winning the battle. For a time, Kratos served Ares loyally, raiding villages, slaughtering innocents, and spreading chaos in the war god's name. Under this influence, Kratos gradually lost any semblance of his humanity. During a raid on a village of Athena's followers, Ares magically moved Lysandra and Calliope from Sparta to the village temple. Ignoring the village oracle's warnings, Kratos entered the temple, slaughtering everyone inside in a blind rage, including his wife and his child. Ares wanted to create the perfect warrior, severing Kratos' remaining attachments to the mortal world to get it. Stricken with horror and grief over what he had done, Kratos renounced his allegiance to the god of war. The village oracle cursed Kratos then, forcing him to forever wear the ashes of his dead family on his skin. From that day forward, Kratos became the ghost of Sparta, the marked warrior. Following this, Kratos decided to faithfully serve the other gods of Olympus, hoping his past sins could one day be erased from his mind. 10 years of this service leads Athena to give him one final task: to find Pandora's box and use the power inside to kill Ares. Kratos does the impossible and murders a son of Zeus, the god of war, once prophesied to bring down the very walls of Olympus. The gods keep their promise to forgive Kratos' sins, but they refuse to wipe his memories as he wanted. Realizing then that he would never be free from his past, Kratos tries ending his life. Athena saves Kratos and offers him the throne of Ares. Kratos accepts, becoming the new god of war. Despite efforts put forth to secure his new throne, Kratos' past continued to haunt him. A vision of Callisto, his mother, being held captive in the Temple of Poseidon, spurs Kratos towards Atlantis. Kratos is forced to confront his own mother, who has transformed into a monster. In her final moments, she reveals to Kratos that Deimos, his brother, still lives, giving him the task of saving him from the domain of death. The resulting journey leads to the destruction of Atlantis, Poseidon's kingdom, and the death of Erinys, the daughter of Thanatos. Athena, Poseidon, and the other Olympians condemn Kratos' quest, but fail to stop his march into the domain of death. There, Kratos reunites with Deimos, who blames his brother for the abduction. After a brief fight and reconciliation, Thanatos appears, proclaiming Kratos to be the true, prophesied, marked warrior, intent on killing both brothers. The resulting showdown ends with both Thanatos and Deimos dead. Kratos buries the last of his family and vows vengeance on the gods for what they have done. Kratos now leads his Spartans in a vicious campaign to conquer all of Greece in his name. Well, this will certainly be interesting, won't it? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Long Play God of War Betrayal. That's right, we are next covering the God of War mobile game that I'm willing to bet some people didn't know actually exists. I'm sure plenty of people know that this existed, but I'm also willing to bet that plenty of people don't. Right now, we're starting off by looking at the various menus that God of War Betrayal has to offer. Right now, we're taking a look at the team that made Betrayal, and while that's happening, let's go ahead and, dive into some basic information. We do that for every God of War game, but I think that for this one in particular, this is going to be the most interesting one to deep dive into. So, the developer for God of War Betrayal was Javaground, or SOE Los Angeles, which is a game development company that made Java games, I believe. Published by Sony Pictures Digital, directed by Philip Cohen. This game came out June 20th, 2007. 2007. So this came out smack dab in between the release of God of War 2 and God of War Chains of Olympus. So this would be the time in the franchise's history where Sony Santa Monica was, experimenting, letting other people get their hands on God of War and make stuff for them. Obviously with Sony Santa Monica actually, overseeing and approving all the design decisions for Betrayal, Chains of Olympus, and later Ghost of Sparta, but actually letting other people get their hands on God of War and do some interesting stuff with them. And this is interesting. This is quite good. Believe it or not, this is actually really, really fun, really, really good. I played this, just for your information, on my computer via emulator. And by the way, I normally don't condone this, but because of just how rare and difficult it is to get your hands on, this game, the information to actually download this for yourself is going to be in the description below. So if you want to try out God of War Betrayal for yourself, the information will be below for you to actually try it out. So anyway, I played this on my PC using my number pad for everything, because this was created for phones, and not like modern phones, but older phones. It's released in 2007 after all, so back when there were actual keys and stuff that you can press, this was made for those kind of phones. How fun. Anyway, the whole game can be played on the number pad. We're going through the remainder of the various options here. I went ahead and deleted my my previous save game for the reason that God of War Betrayal has one global save feature. There aren't any multiple save files. It's only one global save feature for God of War Betrayal. And, to make sure that we got the experience of what it would be like from playing, this game your very first time, I went ahead and just deleted my previous save. Here we have a little bit of information, some very, very general basic stuff. Obviously no mention of Ghost of Sparta or anything like that, because this came out in 2007 and Ghost of Sparta wouldn't come out until 2010. But this technically takes place, this can very easily fit in anywhere between Ghost of Sparta and the beginning of God of War 2. This is Kratos' conquest, his campaign with his Spartan army to conquer Greece. We'll be seeing the tail end of that campaign in God of War 2, but Betrayal covers some of that campaign right now, as he attempts to conquer this unnamed city. We don't actually know the name of the city, but it's an unnamed city. It's, it is what it is. Hope you're all enjoying the template that I made for this. So we're going to see how many times I died. It's going to be over on the left. We're going to see the collectible totals, because yes, like I said, this is actually a pretty good game, and it really captures the feel of God of War, but in 2D. So there are collectibles, just as there's always been inside of white chests. You'll either find Gorgon's Eyes or Phoenix Feathers. The reason there's only 7 Gorgon Eyes and 5 Phoenix Feathers, aside from the fact that the game is, really, really short. I mean, we're doing this in one video as opposed to a series that we would normally do this. Every single Gorgon Eye that you collect will automatically increase your health. So instead of having to collect a set of like 2 or 3 or 5 or 6, just collecting one Gorgon Eye will automatically increase your health, and just collecting one Phoenix Feather will automatically increase your magic. So that's how that works. We do have red orb chests, as we're seeing from the tutorials here. A lot of tutorials in the beginning, but they're not that intrusive, and they're only really in the first level. So if you're worried that this phone game is going to have too many tutorials and stuff, don't worry. It's very non-intrusive here. It's only in the first level, really, that there's a lot of dialogue and text to get in the way of the action. Right now, we're going to be fighting the Argos, a beast of Hera's. That's pretty cool. According to the wiki page, the gigantic beast was sent by the gods as opposed to just Hera to stop Kratos and his Spartan army, but it is described as being Hera's pet. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a nice little addition for this game. Again, God of War Betrayal is actually really good. It does basically everything right, as much as it can do right for such a limited platform. It really does it really, really well. I kept smiling the entire time I was playing through this for my test playthrough and then for the actual recording, because it just kind of blew me away how how good this is. We're going to be pretty casual in this playthrough. I'm not going to be describing everything that's happening on screen all the time because the story of Betrayal's development is really interesting. So we're going to be talking about that every now and again. But for this first level, we can talk about what's going on because it's such a tutorialized situation. So let's talk about the weapons that Kratos starts with. He has his God of War 1 weaponry. So he's going to have his Blades of Chaos, looking as they do in God of War 1. Actually, they're called the Blades of Athena or Athena's Blades. But they don't have the appearance that they do at the end of God of War 1 or in Ghost of Sparta. So for all intents and purposes, they look and feel like the Blades of Chaos, but they are technically Athena's blades. He also has the Blade of Artemis that we got from God of War 1. It's going to see just as much use in Betrayal as it did in the original God of War, because I don't really use that much. In Betrayal, as opposed to God of War 1, using the Blade of Artemis actually uses up magic. So it is powerful, it does do damage, but it uses magic for every single attack that actually connects. So be aware of that anytime you decide to use the Blades of Artemis, or the Blade of Artemis, I should say. I always kept doing that in the original God of War, calling them the Blades of Artemis when it's just one big blade. You also have 2 magic powers. The first one right here is Medusa's Gaze. We also get Army of Hades. The magic powers that we don't get are Poseidon's Rage and Zeus's lightning bolts. We don't get those in Betrayal, but we do get Medusa's Gaze and we do get the Army of Hades. So that's good. Why they decided to exclude the other 2, I'm guessing it was just to fit this game into phones and not overstuff it with too much stuff. Also, because of the way the weapon cycling works, you can only cycle, I believe, in the weapons in one direction. So you can only go from Artemis's blades to Medusa's Gaze to Army of Hades, back to your blades of Athena, to the Blades of Artemis, to Medusa's Gaze, to Army of Hades, and the cycle works that way. So having too many things would probably dilute the experience and make it difficult to use the weapon or the magic that you want at any particular moment. Thankfully, the game does recognize this and recognizes the fact that the Blades of Athena are going to be the most useful weapon in the game. So anytime you use any magic like Medusa's Gaze or Army of Hades, or even just those 2. Anytime you use your actual magic powers, which is Medusa's Gaze or Army of Hades, every time you use it once, Kratos automatically cycles back to his Blades of Chaos. That way you can follow up whatever magic you've done with regular blade attacks. Here, we're showing off the upgrade menu, because yes, this is a complete God of War experience. It has an upgrade menu. And again, the Blades of Chaos, even though they look like Blades of Chaos, they're called Athena's Blades. So there's that. I also want to make a note of how I'm going to treat upgrading in this game. Everything in the game costs the same amount of red orbs to upgrade. So to upgrade the Blades of Athena from level 1 to level 2, it's always 1,000 red orbs. From Blade of Artemis from level 1 to level 2 is also 1,000 red orbs. Everything costs 1,000 red orbs for its first upgrade, 2,000 for its second, 3,000 for its third, and 4,000 for its last upgrade. Anyway, all this to say, the only thing I want to be focusing on for this playthrough of Betrayal is upgrading my Blades of Athena, because they're the most useful thing, and you want to make sure they're powerful, because the enemy scaling is kind of crazy in this game. It's one of the few things I'm not a big fan of in this game. From one level to the next, you will find enemies get progressively way more damage spongy and do way more damage to you than in the previous level, even though they look exactly the same, because obviously, again, the constraints of making this game on a phone, limited assets. So you will find that you want to make sure that your Blades of Athena are leveled up as soon as possible. That way you can keep up with the with the scaling of enemies as you play. I believe now we're coming up to the end of the first level for Sparta, and we're going to be moving on to the second. So, great. While we transition into the second level and take a look at the upgrade menu again, every time you go from one level to the next, you always have the option to upgrade something, but you can also upgrade something in the middle of a level, so don't worry about it too much if you don't have enough red orbs. You can pause at any time to upgrade. things, as you saw me do earlier. We're introduced to a new enemy variant, the Dead Rider. Dead now, but it is a new enemy. It is a new enemy variant. It's not like a mini boss or something. It's something we're going to be facing very normally. I went ahead and ran back and ran forward just to show you the how enemies respawn in this game. It's pretty crazy how often they respawn, and just how not far back you have to go at all to get them to respawn. So let's talk a little bit more about the development of Betrayal, and specifically how Betrayal was meant to be a franchise, like a phone exclusive franchise. So according to Philip Cohen, who is the director of God of War Betrayal, he's the guy who wrote the story treatment. He was the lead writer. Yeah, he wrote the story treatment for this whole thing. Did the design docs. He was in charge of making Betrayal happen. So what happened was that Betrayal was supposed to be the beginning of a series of God of War mobile games that would tell the overarching story of Deimos. Now, who is Deimos supposed to be? Because we haven't seen anyone yet who could potentially be Deimos. By the way, I clicked at a Gorgon's Eye. You can see collecting just one automatically increases your health. You don't have to collect a set. It's just the one, because again, very limited time, very limited assets. I'm also speeding up all these arena fights because they're very samey. So every single arena fight we have in this game, I'm just speeding them up real fast, just to get back to the exploring and moving on part. Anyway, we haven't seen who Deimos is yet, but we will soon, and we will be talking about which character is quote unquote supposed to be Deimos. So this mobile franchise was supposed to tell the overarching story of Deimos, Kratos' brother who sought revenge and power for a reason that the director just can't remember anymore, because he wrote these documents a long time ago, and apparently he doesn't have them anymore, which is a shame, because it would have been very nice to actually take a look at those. Apparently this mobile franchise was going to all culminate into a scene where Kratos had to choose between finding peace through having some of his family back, i.e. his brother Deimos, or if he was going to have to murder his brother to stop Deimos' tyranny. Apparently Kratos' family, his wife, child, and possibly mother, would be watching as Kratos ultimately made the choice to defeat Deimos, with the player rapidly tapping to hold his head under the water, drowning him as his family just burns away and, becoming truly the ghost of Sparta in order to save the world around him, even though he doesn't get to have what he wants, which, considering this game came out in 2007 and the initial documents for this were written, I believe, in 2005, it's very possible that these kinds of story ideas, these design ideas, these design decisions for the mobile franchise would influence God of War: Chains of Olympus and the ending of that game, where Kratos had to choose between being with Calliope or becoming the ghost of Sparta to stop Persephone and save the world. And ultimately, he chose to become the ghost of Sparta and save the world. So very interesting how ideas from a God of War spin-off would influence other God of War spin-offs and other overarching things. By the way, we're facing the Argos again. The Argos is going to be a regular enemy that we face quite a few times for the first half of this game. I also want to mention quickly something that happened like a couple of minutes ago. My deaths. A lot of my deaths are not going to be... Actually, I don't think any of my deaths are from combat or taking too much damage and dying the normal way. Most of my deaths are going to be from ABE, always be exploring, and falling to my death at various points, or falling victim to certain traps. In fact, I'm pretty sure I think 11 of my deaths are a result of exploration as opposed to combat stuff. Because the combat's very easy. It's just tap, tap, tap. It's just a lot of tapping, and things will die around you. You got to make sure you upgrade your blades accordingly and as soon as possible. That way, enemies don't become too damage spongy and don't have to take too many hits before they actually die. But for the most part, the game is just tap, tap, tap. Those saws can kill you very, very quickly, by the way, so be very, very careful of those. Back to the stuff that Philip Cohen wrote, though. Apparently, for the sequel to Betrayal, there was a level concept that would have Kratos fighting his way through the gates of Charon to reach his ferry and cross the river Styx, which ultimately, as we already know from Chains of Olympus, became a level in Chains of Olympus. We explored Hades, we work our way to Charon's Ferry, and we actually end up fighting the Eye, which apparently was not a part of Philip Cohen's story treatment, but was something that was adapted and expanded on by Ready at Dawn Studios for Chains of Olympus, which is just an example of, someone taking someone else's design ideas and improving and expanding on them to make something really cool for other things that you don't necessarily expect. So that's one of the wonderful things about game design. Whatever ideas you have, even if they don't make it or you're not able to create it yourself, share those ideas, because it's possible those ideas are going to make their way to someone or some team, and they're going to be able to do something with it. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, Philip Cohen finishes his little post here by saying that it was a very fun project to work on, Betrayal, that is, and being able to get pointers and approvals from the original God of War 1 and 2 teams was very cool. Corey Barlog, David Jaffe, they, collaborated on this to make sure that everything felt and played the way you would expect for a God of War title, and even for being on the phone would hold the same level of pedigree and high quality that you would expect from a God of War title, even one that isn't published by Sony. So, according to Philip, at the end of his post, he says that, unfortunately, business happens, and the development group was ultimately a victim of its own success and got broken up, and the mobile sequels just never happened. So that's why we never had sequels to Betrayal or anything. It wasn't because it was too weird. It was because the game came out so good, surprising everyone, that the team got broken up and moved to the different places where their talents could be used, according to the director. So very fun, very interesting to learn a little bit about God of War Betrayal. There's another article here that I want to get into a little bit later. For now, going back to what's going on screen, Betrayal is very good, but it does have a lot of backtracking. Again, this game is so short, there has to be some way to pad out the runtime a little bit, so a lot of backtracking. Anytime there is backtracking, I speed it up, so don't worry too much. Betrayal even has beam balancing. Obviously, you don't actually have to balance on the beam, but the beam has unique functionality that we'll get into. I believe in the next level, because the next level I think gets into some actual beam puzzles that actually show off one of the minor mechanics that were implemented for beams that you have to be aware of as you platform and explore the next stage. Yeah, so there's some interesting things in this article. Philip Cohen talks up God of War Betrayal. So, the interviewer asked him a question like, what struggles did you and your development team encounter upon creating the visual aspect of the title? Because this was probably, I think, the biggest hurdle, making the game look like God of War, even on a phone. And Philip was very, very blunt. With only a few hundred kilobytes and much less on most handsets, they had to spend a lot of time coming up with a single tile set and palette swapping scheme that was diverse enough to portray multiple environments and lived up to, Sony's God of War team's standards. So that was probably the hardest part, according to him. And the art director, Nathan Leland, did a fantastic job, and I agree. This game, even if it can be a little bit repetitive in the combat, and there's a lot of backtracking in some places, the game looks phenomenal. It really does look like God of War in 2D. It's really cool. So here's the mechanic with the beams that I was talking about real quick, just so we can get into that. The beams don't act as solid ground. So if you jump, don't expect to land on a beam from a jump. The only way you can actually get on a beam is by running on it, is by running to it on the ground. If you try to jump on it, it's going to act like it's a pit, like there's nothing there, and you'll just fall to your death. So you got to be careful with beams, because they don't act as solid ground. You can only get on them by running to them. If you try jumping on them at any point, you're just going to fall straight through, as you saw right there. So I'm now backtracking real quick to make my way back back here. And taking it slow this time. So another interesting question from the article: how long was the development process for God of War Betrayal? According to Phil Cohen, he wrote the initial design document between September and October of 2005, when he first got hired on, and then it sat and stewed for a year with nothing really happening until it was revisited in 2006, which would be the same month that development for God of War Betrayal started. So God of War Betrayal again came out in June of 2007, and the actual process for developing it was started in August of 2006. I'm just watching. This game looks so good. I recorded this and edited this like a couple of weeks before I did the commentary on this, and this looks really good. You'll notice, of course, the one and only glaring flaw that I haven't talked about for like the first half hour here. Aside from the opening menu, there is no sound for this game, and that's not a glitch. That's just the way it was designed. The only sound this game has. I'm upgrading my Blades of Athena here to the next level, but I'm also showing all the other stuff has the same upgrade costs. The one and only flaw you can possibly levy against Betrayal, and again, this is just a result of the limited hardware, is that there is no OST for the game. The only OST the game has is the main theme, which is for the main menu exclusively, and that's it. Aside from that, the game is just completely silent, with one exception. Every time Kratos finishes a combo with his Blades of Athena and actually slams the blades down onto the ground, we'll hear it in a little bit. And, once he slams the blades down on the ground, there is a sound effect for that, but that is the only time there is a sound effect at all, aside from the music you listen to at the opening of Betrayal's main menu. That is the only sound you'll hear at all for God of War Betrayal, which is why this is going to be such a laid-back commentary, because there's no soundtrack, there's nothing I need to, cut myself off from saying. It's just casual chatting. I record this in the mornings, so if you end up hearing, some birds or some squirrels outside, that's just how it'd be. A lot of squirrels in this area, a lot of birds. A lot of baby birds chirping, squirrels shittering away. So if you end up hearing them, they're just saying hi. They're just doing their thing for the morning. No need to worry too much about that. Here we have an example of some light puzzles that can be included in this title. Nothing crazy. We just need to push that box inside far enough that we can actually grab it from the other side and push it onto the button. Here we have some buildup. Nope, the Minotaur. Now, despite the fact that they build up the Minotaur and the level is called Minotaur, Minotaur is not a boss enemy. It is not a mini boss enemy. It is a brand new regular enemy type, similar to the Dead Rider from the previous stage. These early stages are going to be introducing new enemy types. Don't treat them as mini bosses, because they're not. Minotaurs, Dead Riders, they are to be considered normal enemies that will be coming up just as often as well, not just as often, but they'll be coming up pretty often, just like regular soldiers. We've gone ahead and put the box on the button, and now we can go. Kratos also attacks from the ladder, as you saw briefly there. There's no use for it. I never ended up using that at all. But he can, so it's good animation, if nothing else. Here we have yet another battle with the Argos. It's our third battle now with this thing. And this is probably the most difficult of the Argos fights, if only because it's actually being flanked by Dead Riders. Dead Riders are going to be moving in to try and help kill it, but thankfully there is going to be a Greek citizen there that you can kill for some free health. Being aware of which enemies give you health upon killing them is very, very important. In this game, that's Minotaurs. You need to make sure, if you see Minotaurs and you're taking damage from enemies, to prioritize getting Minotaurs down to QTE kill range. Because if you get them down to QTE kill range, they will give you a ton of health for doing the QTE correctly. And even if you don't, just killing the Minotaur normally is going to give you health anyway. So anytime you're running low on health and you see a Minotaur involved in the fight, prioritize killing the Minotaur to get your health back. Anytime you grab an enemy, once you do enough damage to an enemy, they have a little arrow above them that indicates you can grab them and either rip them apart or throw them at somebody. If you grab an enemy and throw them at other enemies or just at a wall or whatever, then you get some health back. Not as much as you get from Minotaurs, but you get some health back. So anytime you're running low on health, you can prioritize getting enemies to QTE kill range, grabbing them, or prioritizing killing Minotaurs. Here I'm just showing off the regular menu, not the upgrade menu, but the actual regular pause menu that lets you exit the game or whatever. In Garden, this will be, I believe, the first level where we don't encounter the Argos. So it's a nice laid back stage. As every God of War game needs some relatively laid back sections. Speaking of what every God of War game has, the interviewer asked Philip Cohen, how do you keep the look and feel true to the God of War franchise on a platform that is so much more limited than a PlayStation 2? And his answer is quite simply that he and the team played a lot of God of War in preparation. They studied the pacing and the tricks that were put into the console game. And I mean, what's better than that? I mean, very simple, straightforward, and makes sense. You want to emulate something that already exists, you got to play it. You got to understand how it works. You got to understand the pacing of it, and they did. Here I'm showing off an alternate pathway. This is one of the few times in Betrayal that we have alternate pathways. I think there's more times than this, but this is one of the few times where it's truly like an alternate pathway, where you can choose one path or choose the other. You'll get to the same place no matter what, but one of the paths is a little different from the other, a little easier. Basically, the top path features basic soldiers and a health chest if you need some extra health. And the bottom path just has Minotaurs. But again, remember, you can prioritize killing Minotaurs because Minotaurs will give you health back upon QTE kills. As you can see right now. Look at all that health we just got back. That's nice. But remember, keep upgrading the Blades of Athena because, boy oh boy, enemies get real damage spongy real quick. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up with the scaling of that by powering up Athena's blades, as it were. So Betrayal takes place between God of War and God of War 2, technically between Ghost of Sparta and God of War 2, but at the time this came out, it was just between God of War 1 and God of War 2. The interviewer asked why, and the reason is that the story in God of War 2, as we'll get to, jumps ahead quite a bit. Not to get too into the weeds of God of War 2 during God of War Betrayal, but God of War 2, I believe, takes place 13 years after the events of the original God of War. So Kratos has had a relatively busy 13 years, I would say. What with the whole Ambrosia situation that we covered in the first interlude, Ghost of Sparta, obviously, and now his little campaign here to conquer Greece with his Spartan army. Very, very interesting. And again, a smart decision because we're already going to have our fill of titles and adventures and stuff that take place before the original God of War. And God of War is a franchise that just really keeps its pedigree up, even for even for side titles made by other studios, there is a degree of quality and pedigree that you can find. That it's really remarkable that we're playing this franchise, and all of it is to some extent at least good, if not fantastic and amazing. And I think I would have liked to have seen more titles, more God of War mobile titles like Betrayal. We did end up getting a few experimental releases. For the Norse Saga, we ended up getting, what was it called? God of War: A Call from the Wilds, I believe, which was a Facebook game, a message game where you just that basically just played out like a text adventure, which was interesting, but not to the same quality as a full fledged adventure like Betrayal is. It would have been pretty cool to have more games in the Betrayal series, and potentially to have some God of War games like this that take place in between God of War 3 and God of War 2018 to like cover the transitionary period, at least before Kratos gets to the Norse lands. Because it does imply Kratos has like a few minor adventures, a few minor skirmishes and stuff that happen in between the end of God of War 3 and the beginning of 2018. If the Fallen God series is to be taken at face value, which it is. Kratos ended up going to Egypt briefly to do some stuff there, and it would have been interesting if we saw that as a game as opposed to comics. But whatever, it is what it is. That, I think, is our last tutorial. The tutorial where we learned how to break walls. Basically, any wall with a crack on it, you can just hit a few times and boom, that's it. I'm broken. Well and truly broken there. Level 5 of the game is the stage that really starts introducing the plot, the greater plot of Betrayal. So far, all we've been doing is advancing with our Spartans, trying to conquer the majority of Greece. But this stage introduces a hiccup in that plan. So far, we've had the Argos, Hera's pet, being sent by the gods to chase us and try to stop us from doing this. But Kratos wants nothing to do with it. Kratos doesn't care. But he is making a point of not actually killing the Argos. He's beating it up and chasing it away. But he's not actually making a point of murdering the creature because he's not happy with the gods, especially after what happened with Deimos. But he is kind of working to toe the line, as it were. At least the way you can take it in the overall canon of the franchise. He's not happy with the gods, but he is sort of towing the line. He is trying to make it so that he's not pissing them off to a point where they're going to make a move against him. He's not really interested in going to war with all the gods, at least not at this point. He is interested in angering them. He is interested in lashing out at them, but he's not interested in beginning a war with them. He is only interested in satisfying his base level of rage to prove to the gods that he's really pissed off about everything that's happened, both before Deimos and with Deimos. So he's making a point of just beating this creature up and getting it out of the way of his Spartans so he can continue doing what he's doing, but he's not actually making a point of murdering the Argos, which is important. It's kind of annoying, by the way, the Argos. It can like get right on top of you, and no matter for how long you block it for, it's just going to stay right on top of you. So eventually, you're going to have to let go of your block, and it's just going to do some damage to you. So I'm not a fan of that free cheap damage. But
It's not that bad. It doesn't do that much damage to you. Right now, all we're doing is just luring it to the sewers here. Unlike in the previous fights where we're trying to beat it up enough to get it to QTE kill range, now we're just trying to dump it down a pit, which we did. There it is. Oh, whoa, what? Who was that? Someone just killed the Argos, and it was not us. We were making a point to not kill that thing, but someone did it anyway. That character, who is classified, I believe in the wiki, they're just classified as assassin. Yeah, they are an enigmatic enemy of Kratos who slew the Argos for unknown reasons. In the greater canon of God of War, we can see that those greater reasons are just to further isolate him from the rest of the pantheon. But the original idea for this was that assassin character who killed the Argos, that was Deimos. And his reasons for killing the Argos were something vaguely to do with conquering Greece. There he goes. There's the assassin. So because the assassin is essentially sequel bait, we're never going to find out the identity of the assassin in this game. And we're never actually going to get to fight the assassin. The assassin is just a character that we're going to be chasing now from now until the end of our runtime here. So how do I feel about this now that we know that this assassin plotline is going to go nowhere? Actually, I feel better about this compared to the other plotline that didn't go anywhere, which was those loyalists of Ares that were trying to revive him and do stuff. That plotline didn't go anywhere. They built up that plotline so much that in the comic, and then they brought it into Ghost of Sparta, but then that doesn't go anywhere at all in God of War 2, so it's like, why bother with that plotline in the first place? Why not just focus more on Kratos' time as a god and having him do more terrible stuff or good stuff even that pisses off the other gods? I don't know. Point is, that plotline, I wasn't a fan of it not going anywhere. This one, I'm more okay with it not going anywhere because it technically does go somewhere. It's just, doesn't ultimately have anything to do with the assassin, which it doesn't have to. The assassin could have been sent by any god. It's fine. It doesn't really matter. And the end result of what's happened here is going to be God of War 2. So there is consequences for what's happening here. It's just not the most obvious or directive consequences, but there are consequences for what happens here. So that's why I'm more okay with the assassin plotline not really having a proper conclusion as opposed to the loyalists of Ares, because that plotline has a conclusion, but that one is just so mid of a conclusion that it's whatever. Whereas the assassin plotline, this is going to culminate in God of War 2. Even if it's not direct, it's going to culminate in God of War 2. So I'm more okay with that with this just being what it is right now and not going anywhere else, because it's going to culminate in something epic anyway. So I'm okay with this. By the way, this whole stage we've been fighting Hades enemies, Cerberus, undead soldiers. These are going to be our normal enemies for the rest of the game. Much more damage spongy than the regular Greek soldiers that we were fighting in levels 1 through 5, level 6 through 10, and there are 10 levels in total in this game. Levels 6 through 10 are just the Hades enemies that we would fight in God of War 1. They're back, and they are just as powerful. Enemies respawn like crazy. Once you stop getting like red orbs and stuff from them, that's about the time when you can move on, because at that point enemies are just respawning to be annoying as opposed to having some sort of value. We can even fight enemies from ropes. That's pretty cool. It's very basic. It's nowhere near as difficult or annoying as it was in the original God of War, but it's there. Again, doing everything they can to get the feel and pacing of a God of War title, and they did it well. Again, I have very limited complaints with this game. I wish that there was like a re-release or something so that we could have like a soundtrack included with this game, or like more sound effects or something. As it stands, it is kind of weird to just hear my voice. Just hearing my voice in my non-studio setting, hoping that there's going to be no major background stuff to like get in the way of what I'm talking about, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a long video, and we still got some time left to kill before we get to the ending here. Oh, I can also mention that at this point, I have already recorded God of War 2, and it came out great. I really liked how it came out. It's one of my best runs on the highest difficulty that I've ever done. So I'm very happy with how the run came out. I didn't die 0 times, but I died way less in the God of War 2 recording than I thought I was going to. I did really, really well for the most part. Even though there were some hairy situations, I died way less than I thought I was going to. It's really fun. I can't wait for start putting together the God of War 2 Let's Play. Oh my god, and then we're done, right? Because then it's just God of War 3. And I've already got my new recording device. It's actually an Elgato HD60? HD60X, I think it's the one that I got. It was on sale, so got a good deal for that. I tried it out. Works. I'm using it through OBS Studio. It's looking good. I think what I'm going to do, not to get too, behind the scenes and, get away from talking about Betrayal, but, real briefly, because it's a long video, whatever. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to record God of War 3 Chaos Mode first, and just have all the footage from God of War 2 and God of War 3, and then just start making the videos after that. That way there won't be any major crazy pauses between God of War 2 and God of War 3, because God of War 2 and God of War 3 really work as a part 1 and a part 2 to the end of the Greek saga. So yeah, talking about it more, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna record God of War 3 first, and then I'm gonna start putting together God of War 2, and then God of War 3, and just start doing the commentary for that all together, and just release them in a way where there's gonna be no major pauses between the titles. Yeah, saying that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Anyway, I'm speeding through all this because I already went through all this area first, but found the gate was locked, so I didn't want to slow the video down too much. Again, this game is great, but there's a lot of backtracking, so anytime there's an instance of backtracking, I'm just going ahead and just speeding us through it. So here we go. Level 7. Like I said, there's 10 levels in the game, so ready to go. And good stuff. What else can I talk about regarding Betrayal? Oh, there is an interesting video about Betrayal that I would recommend everyone watch. It goes pretty in depth into the development of God of War Betrayal. I'm gonna link it in the description below. Great video. I recommend you watch that. Let's see. What else can we discuss? Because we still got some time to kill. Like I said, this isn't a long game, but it's not like 20 minutes either. It's good. It's a good hour and a half. Well, counting, subtracting the very long intro at the beginning and the stuff at the very end. Oh God, those saws just killed me fast. Like I said, the majority of my deaths come from, again, all of my deaths come from environmental hazards as opposed to enemies, as opposed to them killing you. I died a few times to combat in my practice run, but it's very, very obvious that but it's very, very clear with a little bit of practice. The game is very, very easy to play. Because again, it's just hack and slash. It's just mashing the attack button again and again and again until you win. So while enemies can do a lot of damage to you, it's very easy to overpower them yourself, especially if you're keeping up with upgrading your blades of your blades of Athena to ensure that enemies aren't too damage spongy. And anytime you're low on health, remember to get enemies down to low QTE health. That way you can grab them and throw them. Doing that guarantees that you get a little bit of health back from the enemy that you kill. And if there's a Minotaur nearby, then prioritize killing the Minotaur because the Minotaur gives you a ton of health back for its QTE kill. But again, as you saw right there, anytime you throw an enemy, you get a little bit of health back. So make sure to, if you're low in health, you just prioritize grabbing and throwing enemies. Or again, if you see a Minotaur, do a QTE kill on it. Regular killing it is only going to give you red orbs, but doing the QTE stuff is going to ensure that you get green orbs. Specifically, doing the first QTE and then killing it regularly gets you double the green orbs that you would normally get. So if you do a QTE on a Minotaur and then do the second QTE where you rip off its head, all dramatic like, you don't get any orbs for doing the ripping off the head thing. You don't get any orbs at all, whether they be red or green. But if you do the QTE and then just regular kill the Minotaur with like a regular attack afterwards, you get the green orbs from the QTE, and then you get the green orbs from the regular kill on the Minotaur. And if you just kill a Minotaur without ever doing a QTE at all, then you're only going to get red orbs from it. So you can pick and choose how much health you want, what kind of reward you want from a Minotaur based on the information that, okay, if I do a QTE, I'm going to get health. If I regular kill after a QTE, I get more health. If I just regular kill without ever doing a QTE, I'm only going to get experience points. Some more environmental hazards. I don't think I died of these though. I'm pretty sure. No, okay, not good. I don't die to those. We have another arena fight here. Again, Betrayal is not a big game, so they had to find some ways to pad out the time and make sure that you weren't finishing this in like 10 minutes. So a lot of arena battles. This game features an arena mode, actually. I didn't mention that yet. The game features an arena mode. I probably should have mentioned that way back in the main menu section. So, as I mentioned really early on, the game has like a global save feature, right? There's only one save per God of War Betrayal copy that you have. So, if I were to quit the game right now and go off to arena mode, then the health and magic that I have now is what I will be starting arena mode with. As opposed to in other games where you might start like a new save or something when you go into arena mode or something and like have the default amount of health and magic. And God of War Betrayal, whatever you start off, whatever you have when you exit the game and go back to the main menu, that is going to be saved. So any upgrades you've made to your blades, to your other magic powers, whatever health and magic that you've gathered from your journey so far, you are going to be able to keep all that for the bonus arena mode. In one playthrough, you're never going to be able to collect enough red orbs to actually upgrade everything in God of War Betrayal. Again, we're only prioritizing upgrading our Blades of Athena because that's probably the only thing we're going to be able to finish upgrading normally in just one playthrough of Betrayal, and they're the most useful things to upgrade fully first. I believe with passing that saw, we're at the end of level 7, I think, right? Yeah. This is kind of a weird story beat. This whole Kratos saying you'll pay for what happened. So at the beginning of the stage, Spartans were calling out to Kratos for help, and it's implied, I guess, that the undead soldiers that we were fighting in the stage are the Spartans, and that the assassin or someone killed all of the Spartans. So that's why Kratos said that you'll pay for this. That's kind of a weird thing. I wish we had like Spartan bodies or something to really drive the point home that something happened to his army in the catacombs, but whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so let's bring up another name aside from Philip Cohen and Corey Barlog and David Jaffe. Let's talk about Eric Williams. Eric Williams, if you don't know, is the director of God of War. Oh, hold on. Actually, before we talk about him, let's talk about what's happening here with these QTEs. This is actually one of my few complaints with Betrayal. If you don't have enough space to do the QTE animation, Kratos is not going to do it. and enemies really punish you very, very viciously for not being able to do a QT. You don't take a lot of damage like you wouldn't, say, Chains of Olympus, but holy crap, the enemies can retaliate on you very, very quickly. So if you mess up a QTE or don't have enough space to do a QTE, you're going to take damage. You're probably going to get really, really hurt real fast. So be careful when you do QTs. Make sure you're doing them in a space where you know you'll be able to complete the animation that's being given to you. This is why most enemies that you fight are first fought in like open areas, because they want to show you, just how much space and animation takes up. Because that way, when you fight them in areas like this, if you mess up the animation, then you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to a lot of big damage. You don't want that. Anyway, Eric Williams. Let's talk about him. In trying to capture the feel of the combat and the visual style, Philip Cohen reveals that the Betrayal team worked really closely with Eric Williams, who was, for the console games, the lead combat designer and I believe a modeler. He did some art stuff, right? Yeah, he actually designed the Cerberus puppy enemy from the original God of War, which will make its return in God of War 2. Why do I mention Eric Williams specifically? Eric Williams is a pretty big name in Santa Monica Studios and in the God of War franchise in particular. If you don't know, he was the director for God of War Ragnarok. He worked in basically every single God of War game. He was part of Santa Monica Studios since 2004. He was a part of every single God of War game, even the spin-off titles like Chains of Olympus, like Ghost of Sparta, and yes, like Betrayal. He was part of all of that. He was even part of Ascension, so, the God of War game that no one talks about, I think, almost as much as Betrayal. He was also part of making that, so he had his hands in God of War since the very beginning. So good for him, and good to see that the main Santa Monica team care enough about the franchise to make sure that it's going to be in good hands, even when it goes off to other studios like SOE or like Ready at Dawn. And apparently they were pretty open with Santa Monica was pretty open about letting the Betrayal team do whatever they felt they wanted to do for the title. Obviously, they had to make sure they remained true to Kratos' character, so Kratos couldn't suddenly be like a nice guy passing out flowers or doing random nice stuff like that. But they could tell a more ambitious story with a mysterious assassin and introducing new beasts that you're not going to see in the rest of the God of War franchise. The Argos is a beast that I wish we could have seen in like a 3D game. It's a really cool looking beast. It looks great in sprite form. I wish we could have seen like a 3D model of it in a God of War title. It would have been pretty cool to see that. Same thing with the Dead Rider. The Dead Rider would have been a cool enemy to see in 3D. It's a really nice design. Skeleton hood guy riding around on a horse. That's really fun. We do see a version of that in God of War 2, which is maybe where the team got the idea for the Dead Rider in the first place. Because again, God of War 2 comes out before Betrayal. But I don't know. Either way, it would have been nice to have like a horseback enemy that we could have fought in a 3D game. Aside from one of the bosses in God of War 2. So, good stuff. Good stuff. This stage is called a labyrinth. It's not really that much of a labyrinth. Again, limited space. The game had to fit on phones, on very, very limited hardware. So this isn't really that much of a labyrinth. It's a regular stage with like where you have to like take an extra long, we have to go in like an extra long circle to get through it effectively. I mean, see, this part that we're doing right now is technically the labyrinth part. One area was closed off, so we had to make a big circle to open up the gate, and now here we are. This is basically the end of the labyrinth part of the labyrinth. So not much of labyrinth, not really. Took some damage, so I made sure to do the QT on the Minotaur so I can get plenty of health back. Again, also made sure that I had enough space to actually do the QTE. That way I wouldn't mess it up and like stop halfway through. That is one of the few complaints I have about Betrayal, that Kratos just can't. You really shouldn't be penalized so heavily for messing up a QTE. It's not. Same complaint I had with Chains of Olympus. I'm not a fan of that. Moving on, we're going into level 9. You'll notice that in level 8, we got our last Phoenix Feather. That's kind of a weird thing about God of War Betrayal. The number of collectibles in the game, I don't mind that there's so few. It's kind of weird that they're imbalanced the way they are. And maybe I didn't find all the chests. I don't know. I've seen videos of other people, of the few other people that played Betrayal. Apparently, at their max, they have the same amount of health and magic that I'm going to have at the end of this game. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why there are 7 Gorgon Eyes and only 5 Phoenix Feathers. If you're only going to have 12 collectibles, I don't know why you wouldn't make them 6 and 6. It's kind of strange, because I mean, at 6 Gorgon's Eyes, I'm going to be at what looks like a full health bar, the health bar that extends across the entire blade, as is tradition in a God of War game. So I don't know. I don't know why they have 7 Gorgon Eyes and only 5 Phoenix Feathers. It's weird. I'm not super jazzed about that. I would like more balance. 6 and 6. If you're only going to have 12 collectibles, which again is fine, 6 and 6 would have been the way to go. I don't know why you have so much less magic than you do health by the end of the game. It is kind of strange. But now that we're getting close to the end of the game, we can go ahead and focus back in fully on just talking about the game itself. Level 9 is just a gauntlet of enemies. It is just arena fight after arena fight with some battles in between the arena fights. So there's going to be a lot of speeding up in between in between our fights here. This is one of the points in the game where I wish for a soundtrack in general for Betrayal, but this is one of the points of the game where I really wish for a soundtrack. This would have been cool. Climbing this slowly but surely, climbing this big tower as epic music is playing, and you're fighting your way through waves and waves of enemies. It'd have been pretty cool to see play out. I'm gonna end up dying quite a few times here, because this is where the environmental hazards really start taking their toll on poor Kratos here. I think I said towards the beginning of the video that I ended up dying like 11 times total for Betrayal, and so far I've only died 4. So you can imagine just how badly these last 2 stages, particularly the next one, is going to go in terms of Kratos versus the environment. Environment's going to win quite a few times. This stage too, but we'll get there when we get there. First off, we have some big arena fights. Big arena fights. Not much to write home about. Again, this is one of the things in Betrayal that I'm not super jazzed about. It's just a way to make the game longer. There's not much to talk about. You just button mash your way to victory here. Hoping that your Blades of Athena are strong enough to avoid the damage sponginess. But based on the fact that even sped up, it took a little while to kill all the enemies, should tell you that I was really worried here, because God, you don't have enough space to do the animation, so Kratos can't actually finish it, and the enemies punish him greatly for that. Jeez Louise, look at how much damage I have taken. Oh my God. But thankfully it's a Minotaur, so that means I'm going to get a lot of health back by just doing the QTE and then killing it regular. Anyway, this next area is now where the deaths truly begin, because oh boy. Kratos versus the environment in 2D is not doesn't work well for him. Not compared to 3D, and even in 3D, he takes his licks, but in 2D, oh boy, this part is really going to kick my butt. I really wish there was like a re-release of God of War Betrayal, and that I wasn't lost to the ages, like, and that just wasn't lost to the ages. I mean, I'm not a fan of that. Games should be archived in an official way where anyone can purchase and experience them, no matter how far in the future it is. Oh God, that saw got me. Yeah, I'm not a fan of games, important, fun games like this just being hidden away, tossed away. I really had to go digging to find Betrayal and to find a good emulator for Betrayal and to make Betrayal work. There's a lot of emulators for Betrayal because there are emulators for every single phone phone that it came out on, and finding an appropriate one that had the good title screen, because not all of them have the same title screen with Kratos in the fire. Some of them just have God of War Betrayal in black screen, depending on which phone you're emulating to play this. Some of them have extreme. Some of them are really zoomed out. Some of them are really zoomed in. This one was the preferred version of Betrayal that I found, and I don't know. I wish stuff like this was archived better. I mean, we're living in a time now where Nintendo has just shut down the 3DS store and the Wii U and the Wii U store. I don't know. I wish there was a way to archive that, to archive those the stuff that's there that's there better, because it doesn't seem like a big deal. They're games. They're not like historical documents or anything, but this is stuff people worked really hard on and are really proud of, and that are really good. If there's anything to get out of the commentary for Betrayal, is that this game is surprisingly good, and that, what, if you have a PC, you should probably try this out for yourself, because it's obviously not going to be intensive on your computer to play this at all, and it's really good. It's just really good. And well, we'll move on to the final stage. The God of War continued his bloody pursuit after the assassin, whose unknown master plotted to turn Olympus against Kratos. But Zeus could no longer tolerate the devastation, and the king of the gods commanded Syrinx to put an end to the violence. Syrinx. Let's talk about him. He is a messenger of Olympus. You might be thinking, hey, wait a minute, but isn't that supposed to be like another god? Isn't that supposed to be like Hermes? You're right. He was sent by Zeus to stop Kratos in his pursuit of the assassin. Syrinx is the son of Hermes, so it's a family business, being the messenger of the gods. Don't despair if you think that they just sidelined Hermes or anything. They added some more lore for Hermes because Hermes has a son, and it's Syrinx. He is a demigod. Let's see. His father is Hermes, and his mother is Pandrosus, who there's no direct link for in the God of War wiki, because she never appears in God of War games. But Pandrosus was known in Greek myth as one of the 3 daughters of Kekrops, the first king of Athens. Interesting. Good for Hermes, then, I guess. That's good. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much to say. Just good for Hermes, I guess. I mean, we're gonna meet him in God of War 3, and he's kind of smarmy little guy, but I mean, to be fair, based on what happens in God of War 3, there's a reason why everyone is kind of like a super duper asshole in that game. And in God of War 2 as well. The remainder of my deaths come in this stage, and they all come from environmental hazards. Again, Kratos versus the environment, not going great for Kratos. Many deaths. I believe here I'm trying to, I just got hit from the back. I was trying to gauge the distance to make a jump, because the final hidden chest of the game is you have to make a jump for that. Thankfully, the dying and the killing enemies again and again has made it so that I was able to collect enough red orbs to power up my Blades of Athena one last time to their max level 5. So now, at last, I have a full combo and I do the max amount of damage. So even the damage spongiest of enemies will, die relatively quickly, which is good. And here is our final hidden chest of the game for our 7th Phoenix Feather. Again, I don't know why it wasn't 6 and 6. 7 and 5. And maybe I missed some white chests somewhere in one of the stages. I don't know. I don't think so. I explored them pretty thoroughly in my practice playthrough. And I've seen other playthroughs of other people, the few other people that have videos of this on YouTube, that have similar final health and final magic here. So I have to assume that either the other 2 Phoenix Feathers chests don't exist, or they are so well hidden that they have never been discovered. And he had there, I don't even know what I was thinking when I fell there again. I was trying to make my way back to a lower level, I think, because I wanted to activate all the levers to show you the proper way of getting up there, as opposed to doing the hidden jump for the hidden chest. If you don't do the hidden jump for the hidden chest, you have to activate all the levers, jump back and forth between this tower, because we're still in a tower, even though this level is not the tower anymore. Jumping back and forth between the tower and these platforms to get to the very tippity top here, where we're going to have, I think, one last arena battle. Yeah, one last arena battle. This arena battle is nothing but Minotaurs, so enjoy. And remember, don't do QTEs when you don't have enough space to actually finish them. I was so worried there. I didn't think I was going to have enough space to finish that QTE there, but I did, just barely. And I think just 2 more Minotaurs. 1 more Minotaur. Come on. They take a while to spawn, too, which is another thing I don't like about the arena battles. You're just kind of waiting around after a while for things to spawn in. It's not great. But that's it. That's the last arena battle. Now it's time to move on to the final boss of the game. That's right. This game does have a final boss. It's already been spoiled from the beginning here. The assassin runs off, but now we have Syrinx, who brings word from Zeus that he must stop his rampage and campaign of conquering. But at this point, he's not really conquering anymore. He's just kind of rampaging across Greece to chase this one guy. And now Syrinx has gotten in the way. So Syrinx is a very easy boss. The main strategy of playing this game doesn't change at all just because you're fighting a boss now, a demigod. Syrinx has a few attacks, but they're all blockable. You don't need to worry. Similar to the Argos, there isn't anything he can do that can actually break through a block. You don't have parries, so you don't have to worry about that mechanic. The only thing Syrinx is going to do is occasionally swipe at you with his big spear. He's occasionally going to do an attack where a bunch of lights come down and that can damage you. But if you just block everything he does, it's not gonna take that long to get into QTE range. The thing about Syrinx, however, is that he does not go down with one simple QTE. It takes 3 QTEs to actually kill Syrinx. Yeah, so once you get him down to the first QTE, then you just repeat the process. He's just going to keep doing some basic attacks. You can block them all, just get out of his way. He will have an infinite supply of Cerberus to back him up. Yeah, so don't expect there to be an end to the Cerberus dogs. They are infinite. So go ahead and just juggle between damaging Syrinx and killing a Cerberus, and you should be okay. But remember, there's going to be infinite amounts of Cerberus dogs. So at this point, if your blades are fully powered up, it's not going to take too much to kill a Cerberus dog. And then you can just keep focusing on Syrinx himself. We're 2 QTEs down, so now we have 1 to go. Just the 1 to go. And I haven't talked about QTEs all that much. They do exist in this game, as we've seen plenty of times already. The only buttons they ask you to press is going to be a directional button or the attack button. Anytime you see OK appear for a QTE, it's asking you to press the attack button. So either press the attack button or press the directional buttons as as they come up. So very simple concept, very simple mechanics with the QTEs. Remember, anytime you see OK, that's just the attack button. That's not like any special crazy button that you don't know. That's just going to be the basic attack button that phones had back in the day. Here we go, the last QTE, same animation as before. I messed it up because I don't have enough space, and you can get punished pretty heavily for not having enough space to do QTEs, but here we go. That's the third QTE. Syrinx is dead. I'm getting attacked by a Cerberus, but now we're at the end of the game. Hooray. Kratos, Slayer of Gods. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this long play of God of War Betrayal. Next time we're moving on into God of War 2, so the beginning of the end. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
I am what the gods have made me!